How dare you? You have stolen my dreams and my childhood with your empty words, and yet I'm one of the lucky ones. People are suffering, people are dying, entire ecosystems are collapsing. We are in the beginning of a mass extinction, and all you can talk about is money and fairy tales of eternal economic growth. How dare you?
One of the most important things, never, ever quit. Never quit. One of the things about loving what you do is that it's not work, and therefore you don't quit automatically. It's a lot easier not to quit. But you can never give up.
It's harder than a lot of you thought it might be. Sometimes it may make you feel like that it's not possible. You might want to give up.
We believe in you.
Don't give up. I don't want you to feel discouraged. I want you to understand that it just means we got to push that much harder.
For God so loved the world, that he gave his only begotten Son, that whosoever believeth in him should not perish, but have everlasting life.
Bennett, where she basically made a 22-minute video completely discrediting any idea that Shadowgate was a good documentary and that Millie Weaver was surrounding herself with horrible people.
I'm very concerned for my friend Millie Weaver, and I think she's surrounding herself with some really bad influence and someone I once considered a close friend. But within the last year, she surrounded herself with some very questionable people, which has caused her to turn her back on and lie about everyone that she used to work with or consider a friend. But Millie has unfortunately befriended very sketchy characters that I believe put Millie and her family in danger.
She was saying that two kind of whistleblowers in the documentary were pretty sketchy, and that kind of had an air of truth to it, because I think that a lot of things surrounding this Millie Weaver thing are odd, including the two whistleblowers that the Shadowgate documentary focuses on. Tori just seems kind of out in left field and spacey. I'm not saying she is, but to me, I've always sort of felt like there's something off on her. And then the guy, whose name's escaping me right now, but he just, I don't know, something didn't seem right about him either. Not to mention he's got a really vulgar mouth. And but as I watched what Caitlin put together, and I'm not saying whether it's credible or it's not credible, just saying as I watched it, it seemed to me that was also off a little, because she was pulling in social media quotes and different evidence that when I went to, I couldn't verify. So that was interesting. Not saying it's not all true. I'm just saying I tried to verify some of the information. I wasn't able to verify everything that's in Caitlin's video that she put out. I was able to verify that Tori's husband was accused of and pled guilty, I think, to sexual assault. And I did see some of the Twitter feeds that she was referencing. Um, and anyway, it's a compelling piece of video that Caitlin Bennett put out. And if you're interested in this Millie Weaver story, you probably should go ahead and watch it. I'll include the link to it in the description below, and I'll put it on the screen right here. I just thought I would get this sort of out to you. I've never been a fan of InfoWars. I watch it every once in a while. I've always liked the Millie Weaver reports back when it was on YouTube, and she is still on YouTube. Whenever she posts something, I see an update and I watch it. I've always liked her, but I've never seen anybody be abandoned and kind of their world just implode the way that her world's imploded. And I have a lot of sympathy for her. I mean, the Republicans don't like her, the Democrats don't like her, the Independents don't seem to care for her. Now the fringe right, or the people around her orbit, they are all sort of turning on her, even though they seem to want to blame it more on maybe she has mental illness, or the people she's surrounding herself with are hurting her. So yeah, so I don't know, everything that's coming out, including this from Caitlin, almost you could say gives credence to the idea that maybe her documentary is onto something. I've watched the documentary a few times, and I don't care for that sort of thing. I don't think that everything's a conspiracy theory. And when you make everything a conspiracy theory, then nothing's a conspiracy theory. There is definitely some compelling evidence in Millie's documentary as well. But again, I tend to fall in the line of those whistleblowers that she is with those are just weird. Especially that Tory person who, I mean, when Millie did her live update, Tory was sitting right next to her and constantly interrupting her. And that dude was in Texas, I think, when everything went down, and then he got on his bike and was posting updates as he was going to Ohio. And his updates were just weird and convoluted, and he seemed paranoid and a little bit delusional. I don't know. I'm not saying that they were. Maybe Tory is the best person in the world. Maybe this guy is, a stand-up guy. So I'm willing to give both the benefit of the doubt. I have a feeling that this story is not over yet, and that more information will come out. So I'm keeping an open mind about everything. And I appreciate you watching. Click on the link. It's in the description about... So it's been a week or so since I made a video about the Millie Weaver arrest, and I'm kind of over the story. I think Millie Weaver released that documentary. It was a good documentary. I watched it a few times. She pretty much pissed off everybody in her orbit. She worked with InfoWars and they fired her. The Republicans distanced themselves from it. The Democrats thought it was stupid. Everybody around her, other than a few people that are kind of controversial. So she's gone through a lot, not to mention she got a criminal charge, multiple criminal charges. I mean, there are just so many suspicious things and weird things around that whole story that just make no sense to me. And I would say I'm pretty confident that even though maybe the criminal charges have a little bit of merit, the fact that her mother did not want to pursue those and the prosecutor is pushing forward against the wishes of the victim make me think that there's more than just a search for justice here. I think there's also some retaliation built in, which scares me to no end, that when the government wants to get you, they can get you. There's this old saying, show me the man, or give me the man and I'll show you the crime, which basically means that if the government wants to come after you, they can find a reason to come after you. So no new stories have broke on the Millie Weaver situation in the last week. The last last news story, legitimate news story I could find about it was 5 days ago. But Twitter has still kind of been active on it. I know that Millie herself has not really been tweeting on much about her criminal case. She has a gag order, which also doesn't make a whole lot of sense. I mean, she does not have the right to use her voice to defend herself. That doesn't make any sense. She was released from prison on October 17th, and she paid I think a $20,000 bond to get out of the Portage County Jail, so she wasn't released from prison. But people get a little crazy with the whole prison jail thing. I mean, those words can be used interchangeably, especially to the novice. Basically, she was being held captive in a cage, and now she's out of that cage. But the technical term is before you are convicted, it's called jail. After you're convicted, it's called prison. This tweet from Robert Barnes says, the indictment against Millie Weaver makes about as much sense as the initial indictment against Assange, a ridiculous overcharging of the case that would normally never be indicted at all. A family dispute becomes assault during a robbery. FYI, victim opposed the prosecution. That's right, the mother adamantly does not want her prosecuted, and the attorneys are going forward anyway, or the prosecutors are going forward anyway, which to me is kind of suspicious. Also, it's suspicious that she was arrested on a Friday evening or afternoon, which guaranteed she and her husband would be in prison over the weekend, or in jail over the weekend, and her children would. Who knew? I mean, there was no plan for the children, I guess. Children Protective Service is going to come in, and then, I mean, this was retaliation. I just can't see it any other way. Anyway, this attorney, I watched his video. He has some good commentary on it. Update on the Millie Weaver saga. My deep thoughts on the difference between a mistake and a lie, and how weaponizing discourse has conflated the two. Share away. You should watch this video of him. I'm not going to play it. That's his content. But he gives really good analysis of what's going on. People really underestimate the power of being a pretty white girl. More than $170,000 have been raised for Millie Weaver on suspicion that the government is out to get her. In fact, the cops say she helped steal her mom's phone. So, I don't see anything wrong with that. If her fans, she has a fan base, and if they want to give her money for her legal defense, I see no problem with that. So I'm sure it's more than $170,000 now, because this was August 22, and so that was 3 days ago. So I'm sure it's gone up a little more. But she's got a big fight on her hands between, her criminal defense and also child custody sort of situation, or fight with CPS, and then any sort of legal battle she's going to get in with, her former employer or vendor, I guess, since she was a subcontractor. And there was a lawyer that I listened to that is associated with InfoWars. I just was listening to him. He was saying that, if you pay a lawyer a $10,000 to $20,000 retainer, basically that lawyer is just thinking that he's going to work on the case for one day and he'll probably plead it out. So to get a proper defense costs a lot of money. I mean, that $170,000 is going to be eaten through very quickly. I'm sure that Millie and her husband also have some money. But this video appears to have been deleted, so that's interesting what happened there. Now they are turning on Alex Jones because Millie Weaver got arrested and robbed her mom. Yeah, the liberal people are having a field day with this whole thing. Another highlight from yesterday's stream was when there was a lot of coincidences that went along with the accident. Oh yeah, I think this is the attorney here. Robert Barnes is the attorney who said that proper legal defense costs quite a bit of money. And then there's a picture of Millie holding up a gesture that's blurred out, thankfully. Your deep state folks have been dragged out into the sunlight. The game is over. Your time has come. Evil in all its forms will be eradicated by the patriots, and there is nothing you can do about it. or stop it. Hashtag Millie Weaver. Yeah, her supporters really are convinced that the deep state is out to get her, and her. I mean, say what you will about her documentary. It's interesting that it does, when you watch it, make a pretty compelling case that there is a deep state and they have devices in place to just destroy people at will, at the whim, just because. So I have a huge update on the Millie Weaver saga that is going on right now. There's a new article out by the Daily Beast. It was actually dropped last night. Interesting article. She did an update last night where she talked about what happened and gave everybody an update. Let's take a look at it.
First of all, I want to say it's good to be back. I'm so happy and relieved and grateful that I have my freedom back right now, and I also have my children back right now, which means so much to me. And I just can't even express how grateful I am to all of the many people out there that came to my aid, that supported me through this hard time while I was being attacked. I know Tori also helped me so much, and I'm forever grateful to her. I can't really go too much into the court case details because it is still an ongoing matter. The judge did say in the court hearing that I'm not allowed to say that this has anything to do with a government conspiracy. Otherwise, I'm going to be put back in jail. And I was being humiliated, having my privacy taken from me, starving because they were giving me food that I could not tolerate and eat because I have lactose intolerance. I have other food sensitivities. I was crying a lot. I'm not going to lie. And it was hard. Okay. It was a life-changing experience, to say the least. So I will say that I felt your prayers. I felt the prayers from those of you guys that were praying for me and my family. Sorry. I didn't want to cry again. I didn't want to cry. I felt your prayers. So thank you. I'm forever grateful for the prayers and for you guys raising that GoFundMe for legal defense. And that money is going to be going directly into a legal account managed by lawyers, and it's going to be used to protect myself and my children who they tried to take from me. So it was a scary experience.
Didn't let that happen.
She had my back. So it was a scary time. It still is a scary time. We're still being monitored, and we have to do everything right. But
I had an interesting experience with him. Joe Rogan tweeted that this feels like the opening scene in a horror movie. Any chance you could get Millie Weaver on as a guest on your show? All right, I'm not sure that it would be a horror movie, Mr. Rogan, and it would be interesting. I would definitely tune in. The last podcast I tuned in of Joe Rogan was when he interviewed Peter Schiff, and that was a weird interview. They were talking over each other. It was pretty messed up, but I definitely enjoy Peter Schiff, and I also like watching Joe Rogan's podcasts. I think who's better than Joe Rogan is Tim Pool, who recently went through some controversy himself with his show, but I love Tim Pool's content. Facebook blocks Millie Weaver, but this type of stuff is protected speech. Makes sense that you... Anyway, it's true that it seems like Facebook is pulling down her content, especially her movie that she put out. There's the indictment. I made a video about the indictment. If you want to scroll through my channel, you can see that. And again, this video, I'm just sort of trying to get the updates without actually having a news story to reference, because there is no new news. It seems like it's been deafening silence on the Millie Weaver story for a week or so now. Probably because there's not a lot of developments happening. I mean, her case has died down. She's been fired from InfoWars. Her whole life is she's probably just trying to regroup and figure out what's next. Let's see what else. This site has the full documentary, but it also has a video from Alex Jones. Oh, what's interesting is Millie has been banned from Alex Jones' site, banned.video, which is the height of hypocrisy because he set that site up so that people that were banned or were being deleted or are taken off social media platforms would have a place to go to put their content. So now Millie's video has been banned from banned, which I thought was an interesting bit of irony and hypocrisy. Um, Emergency legal, yeah. So I mean, I think we have a sense of what's going on with this story. There's not a lot of new developments happening here, but people are still commenting on it. It's still sort of a popular story. I'm going to continue to follow it just because I'm interested in where these legal charges go. I mean, I suspect they'll probably be dropped quietly at some point. Um, it just seems to me like without the victim being willing to testify, it's going to be a hard prosecution. And it does appear that this is retaliation, and I'm not sure that, you know, whether it's worth it for the prosecutors, but I don't understand prosecutors. I have a case going on where it's not even a criminal thing, it's just a civil. I'm trying to get licensed in Maine, and I had convinced myself that the second that the case was turned over to the district attorney or the attorney general, they would immediately be like, what in the world are you guys doing to this poor guy? Just give him your license. And they would drop it. But they went ahead and moved forward with it, and I was just shocked out of my mind they even did. At every stage, I've always given the benefit of the doubt to the government, and every single time I've been disappointed with the way the government acts and how it's just blatant corruption. So I'm going to give the benefit of the doubt to the prosecutors in this case that they'll probably end up just quietly withdrawing these charges. Not sure if that will happen. Up yesterday, and in the video I included a small little clip that I got from Twitter of Alex Jones and Roger Stone talking about why Millie Weaver was fired from InfoWars, why her relationship was terminated, and the audio of that clip was stripped from my video, or like it's the weirdest thing in the world to add to all the weird things that are happening. I mean, this is the clip. It starts a little bit before, but then we get to the video clip and the audio is completely stripped. Millie, it says, Alex Jones terminated our work relationship this morning, and the reason appears to be because Roger Stone and Alex Jones believed that Millie put something in the Shadowgate documentary about blaming Roger Stone. She writes this in another place. I publicly challenge AJ to a $10,000 wager, not from my legal fund, but from my InfoWars earnings. Show me where in the Shadowgate documentary we disparaged Roger Stone in the manner you described below. You also claim we attacked you and Trump. I think this is a little risky, but I'm going to go ahead and play this video. So then I start playing the video, and I could hear it. When I made the video, I could hear it. When I reviewed the video, I could hear it. But after it was uploaded to YouTube, I didn't obviously watch the video right away, but I started to get comments like, why is the audio muted? And the clip is muted, and things like that. And some people were like saying, hey, why don't upload videos until you reviewed them? Well, I mean, I assure you, the audio was there, and now it's not there. So that is some strange stuff. I'm pretty sure that video is even monetized. So I don't even understand what is going on here. But now let's take a fair look at some of the latest updates, because that's just bizarre. I mean, to add to all the bizarre things that are happening in this case, that just adds to it in my mind. And I have, I mean, I think in the end, severing ties with Infowars and Alex Jones is probably going to be a good thing for Millie Weaver. And also, I think that when um, um, uh, when people kind of don't like you on all sides, the Republicans, the Democrats, the fringe right, the fringe left, when you're hated on all sides, that means that your message is probably something that people should pay attention to. Because when all sides hate you, I feel like those are the messages that probably ring the most true to me. I'm not saying one way or the other whether Millie Weaver is uh, like, I'm not trying to support her work or not support her work or say that her documentary is good or bad. I'm just saying that my ears perk up when she's getting it from all sides, when anybody's getting it from all sides, because being an independent like I am, I often get it from both sides. So let's just take a look at this story on the Daily Beast. Infowars reporter hailed as a deep state victim. The cops say she just robbed her mom. Yeah. When Infowars correspondent Millie Weaver was arrested last week, her supporters claimed that she was a victim of the deep state prosecution of a truth-telling journalist. By Tuesday afternoon, they had raised more than $170,000 to help her fight the charges. In reality, Weaver wasn't some heroine at the vanguard of the fight against nefarious government agencies. Instead, she was arrested on charges of robbing her own mother, according to newly released court documents from police and prosecutors. But despite the less dramatic plot, Weaver's backers are still laying claim to her victimhood status, and she does not appear inclined to give the money back. On Friday, Weaver live-streamed with her arrest on her at her Ohio home by sheriff deputies in Portage County. She claimed she didn't know why she was being arrested, complained that she had not been warned via mail that she was about to be indicted, and insisted, as she was being arrested, that she was on the cusp of a major professional moment. I was literally about to break a huge breaking news right now, and I'm being arrested, and I have no idea why, Weaver said on her live stream. Soon after the arrest, one of Weaver's supporters published Shadowgate, a convoluted documentary in which Weaver and a handful of odd characters allege a deep state conspiracy among government contractors. Okay, obviously this is a very, very, very one-sided article, but it's important to know both sides. So I want to keep reading this so that you know the side that is against Millie Weaver. Alleged to be the puppet master behind American politics. And soon after that, Weaver's right-wing allies quickly claimed that the damaging secrets in Shadowgate were what prompted the authorities to descend upon her. Blaze TV host Elijah Schaefer claimed Weaver had been arrested for allegedly obtaining leaked government documents. Attorney Robert Barnes, who has represented Infowars in the past, claimed that Weaver's arrest was probably criminalizing journalism that obtains information from whistleblowers. Ezra Levitt, the head of the conservative Canadian outlet Rebel News, set up a GoFundMe page in Weaver's name. With Weaver in jail, the donations began pouring in. Over the weekend, there was near total silence from local authorities about the charge she faced. Indeed, when asked whether Weaver was arrested for her documentary, a county jail official only laughed in an interview with the Daily Dot. But official documents now show that Weaver's arrest had nothing to do with the deep state, unless the alleged conspiracy included her own mother. I'll have more on that. I think that it's important to see that there is something that really happened behind the charge, but it's also, you just can't ignore the fact that sometimes when somebody's going after you, the most direct route is often the hardest route. So if they were to say, we're going to retaliate against Millie Weaver for publishing that documentary, well, then that's just clearly against the Constitution, a violation of her right to free speech, or a violation of her human rights, so many things. So sometimes in battle, you don't go directly at your enemy. You you bore a tunnel under the ground and you come at them secretly from behind, or you go around a mountain and you attack them from the side. Um, the direct route is often the most strategically unwise option, and so this article is not even bringing that in. So to continue that analogy further, when you're going after somebody or trying to discredit them, you're not going to just arrest them for their free speech. You're going to go through their history. You're going to go through their life. You're going to look at all their social media. You're going to look at all their past, anything that they've ever done, whether they spit on the ground or jaywalked, you're going to look into. And then you're going to find a way to get them. And I'll have more on that later. But official documents show that Weaver's arrest had nothing to do with the deep state, unless the alleged conspiracy includes her own mother. Weaver is formally facing 3 felony charges for robbery, evidence tampering, and obstruction of justice, as well as a misdemeanor domestic charge over an April family fight gone wrong. Weaver's husband, Gavin Wentz, and her brother, Charles Weaver, are facing the same charges. The incident in question took place on April 25, when Millie Weaver began arguing with and insulting her mother, Felicia McCarran, according to a police report. McCarran started a recording on her phone, an apparent attempt to catch Weaver, Weaver's brother, and Weaver's husband talking about her. The Weavers and Wentz allegedly tried to take the phone away in a scuffle, and all 3 allegedly wrestled Felicia to the ground. Chuck grabbed Felicia's arm, and Gavin grabbed the other. The report reads, Millie joined in, and they all threw Felicia to the ground and held her down. So Millie just joined in? How? How did Millie join in? And why would a daughter actually fight her own mother? These are questions. And also, if there's a recording, where is it? Do the police have the recording? The trio succeeded in taking the phone, according to McCarran's account. And what constitutes the robbery Weaver is charged with. McCarran, who suffered a small abrasion in the scuffle, fled to the neighbor's house and called 911. While there, she saw Charles Weaver running to the back of the house in what she took to be an attempt to hide her phone. That's just conjecture. There's no way she knows for sure. And if he was just running to the back of the house to try to hide the phone, wouldn't the police do a thorough investigation? Wouldn't they have a sniffer dog come in and go out and try to find that phone? Because based on an article I read yesterday, it appears they don't have the phone. They never found the phone. And Millie's account was that her mother lost her phone 3 or 4 days earlier. Wouldn't it be interesting if that phone turns up somewhere? When deputies arrived, the Weaver siblings and Wentz claimed that McCarran suffered from mental issues and had lost her phone days earlier, the report alleges, but deputies became suspicious of the trio, suspecting that they were making up the explanation on the spot. Further investigation proved that McCarran had been texting someone from her church on her phone shortly before the alleged robbery, meaning that she could have lost it days earlier. By comparison, the deputies found McCarran's version of events believable. McCarran, the mother, I know, goes to the Mormon church, and she was talking to a Mormon pastor. I'm not sure if Millie Weaver's a Mormon, but I do know that that's the church they're referring to. As Millie told the story, she paused numerous times and seemed to be thinking of the details as she spoke, the report reads. The 3 would look at one another and pause, as if looking for the right answer before one would provide an answer. The trio's alleged attempts to lie to the officers were so obvious to authorities that they were described as absurd. At one point, Weaver's brother, Charles, told an officer that he had run behind the house to check out a flooding issue, not to hide the phone. When the officer pointed out that there were no footprints in the mud to show that Weaver had gone behind the house, Charles countered that he had jogged, which supposedly wouldn't have left footprints. That is an issue, and it's an interesting issue that he went behind the house, but and the police officer mentions that there's no footprints, but the neighbor saw him go behind the house. The neighbor could have told the officer where he went. They saw it, right? They're a witness. The officer, like, I don't know how huge this house is, but the officer could just pace back and forth and find the footprints if he thinks there's going to be footprints. But I would say that if the officer observes that there's no footprints, and the brother admits that he went behind the house, the neighbor said that he went behind the house, and the officer doesn't see any footprints, I would say that actually corroborates his story, and that running does not produce footprints, because it would be just so easy to pace back and forth and find the footprints. And the fact that there were none makes the story that jogging and not leaving footprints is more believable. However, it is suspect that there were no footprints when earlier in the day, before the officers arrived, it could have been colder. The ground could have been, mud. When it reaches a certain level, you don't leave footprints, and then when it warms up a little, you do leave footprints. There are a few explanations for that, but I do admit that if he's walking in an area and showing the officer where the flooding problem is, and they are making footprints as they're doing that, and then he didn't make footprints earlier, that is an inconsistency in the story. But again, the officer, it would be so easy for him to just pace back and forth and find footprints. So I'm a little, I don't like all the inconsistencies in this story. I don't like all the holes. I don't like everything that's going on that just doesn't make any sense. Millie Weaver didn't respond to a request for comment. Winston Charles Weaver, along with McCarran, couldn't be reached for comment. That's actually probably smart. I think just not saying anything public about this from a legal perspective is a good one. I think her lawyer does need to come out and make a statement or something. Even as the details about Weaver's case trickled out, her supporters continued to believe she had been somehow punished by the government for her Shadowgate video. Roughly a dozen Weaver supporters gathered outside the Ohio courthouse Monday for Weaver's hearing, carrying signs that said Shadowgate or Free Millie Now. One claimed that Weaver had been arrested for journalism. And while Weaver's arrest turned out to be related to an alleged robbery of her mother, rather than a deep state skullduggery, GoFundMe will still allow Weaver to receive the $170,000 she raised so far. GoFundMe will offer donors refunds if they request them, according to a statement. In order to honor the intent of the fundraiser and pay legal fees related to this arrest, the funds will be transferred to Weaver's legal counsel, the statement reads. This will ensure the money raised will only be used for the campaign's stated purpose. This is definitely a fascinating story, and I thought that I was done kind of looking into it. I was kind of over it, but I mean, more comes out all the time, and then having the audio taken from a video I put up, I mean, there must be a reasonable explanation for that. There just has to be, but it's weird. Let's just say that's weird, and I'm starting to see a lot of weird things around this case, so it just makes me more and more interested. But that's sort of my 2 cents on it. Anyway, please comment, keep the conversation going in the comment section. I'd love to know what you guys think, what you think of the unfolding story here with Millie, whether she deserves what she's getting, she doesn't, whether there's a deep state that's out to get her, whether what you think of her documentary it's called Shadowgate, whether it's true, whether it's not true, the controversy around InfoWars and her, all that. I think that by not being associated with InfoWars anymore, it will probably help her. And I think everybody involved in this story, Millie, InfoWars, Alex Jones, the prosecutors, have all taken a hit. But this is the way the government works. The reason why they implement these character assassination campaigns is because they're effective. So it looks like a boat lost its engine out there and is being towed in by this other boat, the one next to the dock, and they're holding up this massive yacht from coming in that's behind them. So that boat that is on the rope, you can sort of see the rope there, is being tugged in by that other boat, and right now they're having a hard time getting it over to the dock. And luckily the current's not that strong, but the current is um, taking the big monster boat over toward the breaking wall, and he can't get too close to there because his boat goes down about like 4 or 5 feet into the water, and so he has to stay in the deep water. He can't get over in the shallow water, but looks like they were able to get that boat a little closer to the dock, and they're eventually going to get it tied up. I would guess they're going to tie it up on the inside of the dock, the fuel dock there, not on the outside. That would be a place where they could keep it until it can get towed out of the water or get repaired or whatever needs to happen. But now there's enough room for, looks like enough room for the massive yacht to come by now. Uh, I'll refocus my attention to the massive yacht docking, because the docking experience on these things is pretty crazy. Although it's almost easier. That's the irony. It's easier to drive these newer, humongous boats than it is to drive a smaller boat that only has two engines, or two propellers, because these massive boats have these things called bow thrusters in the front that will move the front of the boat back and forth. And then some of them have bow thrusters on the back so that they literally will make the boat go sideways. So you have forward and back movements with your main engines, and then you have side to side with your bow thrusters and your stern thrusters. So right now he's turning the boat, so it's going to be parallel with my boat, and then he's going to back into this um, like slip for the larger boats. And you can see this boat is cool. I actually get to look at it all the time, but it's really cool because it's kind of rare for, well, I mean, a lot of newer boats have this, but it has the windows down on the actual hull. It has these really thick glass that make up part of the hull, and so it makes for a better like living room experience and different bedroom experience when you're sleeping down there. I've never been in this boat, so I don't know what's on the other side of those windows, but uh, it's pretty cool. And you can see he's got his bow thruster going to keep him close. See that water coming out the side? I mean, those are the stern thrusters and also the engine. And then you'll see water displaced up near the bow too at some point, I'm sure. That's just him keeping the bow so that the boat goes in parallel to the dock. And he just slips right in there. It's pretty amazing how he's able to do that. I've seen this guy dock quite a bit, and he seems. InfoWars Alex Jones and Millie Weaver did terminate the relationship. I apologize for not seeing this and putting it in my live stream earlier, but here's a tweet from Millie. It says, Alex Jones terminated our work relationship this morning, and the reason appears to be because Roger Stone and Alex Jones believed that Millie put something in the Shadowgate documentary about blaming Roger Stone. She writes this in another place. I publicly challenge AJ to a $10,000 wager, not from my legal fund, but from my InfoWars earnings. Show me where in the Shadowgate documentary we disparaged Roger Stone in the manner you described below. You also claim we attacked you and Trump. I think this is a little risky, but I'm going to go ahead and play this video.
People that worked for John Brennan approached me while I was in my specialist training in the Navy.
I worked for Obama's national security.
People that worked for John Brennan approached me while I was in my specialist training in the Navy.
I worked for Obama's national security advisor, General James Jones, and for about 8 years for the development of social media psychological warfare.
We're talking about military-grade psychological warfare weapons being used on American citizens.
Paid for by American taxpayers.
I was a contractor for various intelligence agencies. Our intelligence doesn't stay within our borders or within federal buildings.
Force Psychological Operations Group had no idea that we were going to be taking their years worth of work that they paid us to do, and we kept the intellectual property rights to it and remarketed it, branded it commercially as the ShadowNet.
It pries into your demographic, your world. So if I want to blackmail you and put you under my thumb, not only will I know everything, I will know people I can get in contact to find out more about you. I had full access to communications between the former GCHQ director, Hannigan, Adam Schiff, Daniel Jones, Brennan, General Jones, and many, many more.
You may know where the Hillary Clinton emails are.
What do you want to see me in Leavenworth? Which I don't, by the way, so nobody raid me.
What basically you've heard just being described for the last 3 or 4 years with fake news and the fake news journalists, fake stories, fake dossier, all these things are attributes and characteristics of psychological warfare.
What did you name it ISI for?
I like the iPhone, Psi for psychological warfare.
Okay.
These operations aren't like just small things. They have to coordinate and organize all of these things. They have to coordinate with the assets they have in the media. And they have to do all of this without any attribution to themselves.
Is this really happening? Is there wiretapping, illegal wiretapping going on in Maine's jails? Let's take a look at this article here that just was posted about a week ago. Lawsuit alleges illegal wiring to happen in Maine County jails. 3 defense lawyers have sued the company that provides phone service in more than a dozen Maine jails, alleging that the company illegally recorded their calls with incarcerated clients. So the lawyers are being recorded talking to their clients. There's no more attorney-client confidentiality, privilege, anything like that. Now those calls are being recorded, and you can bet they're being sent to the district attorney or the attorney general. Some of the confidential conversations were shared with jail personnel and prosecutors, the lawsuit says. The company, Securus Technologies, has faced similar legal battles over recorded phone calls in other states, including Texas and California. Earlier this month, the Kansas City Star reported that Securus Technologies and a private prison operator had settled claims by attorneys and inmates for a total of more than $5 million. The Maine attorneys filed the federal wiretapping lawsuit last week, and they have asked for a class action status to represent other lawyers as well. Conversations between an attorney and a client are supposed to be confidential. The plaintiffs are accusing the company of violating that standard by recording hundreds of calls. This is what I'm talking about when I say that Maine has blatant, in-your-face, there's nothing you can do about it corruption. These recorded calls between an inmate and their attorney have been often turned over to the police of the Maine Attorney General, and upon information and belief, local district attorneys responsible for criminal proceedings involving the inmate. I mean, that's insanity. So they're recording conversations between protected conversations and turning it over to the main AG and the attorney. I mean, doesn't the attorney general have a responsibility to not even accept those illegal wiretaps? The illegal interception and recording violates Maine and federal recording and wiretapping laws. The three lawyers who filed the complaint are Jeremy Pratt, Robert Ruffner, and John Tibbetts. They either did not respond to emails or phone calls Tuesday requesting interviews about the case or deferred to their own attorneys who are representing them in the lawsuit. We believe it's a pervasive problem and a serious constitutional violation, Bob Cummins, one of the lawyers representing the plaintiff, said Tuesday. Unidentified spokesperson for Securus Technologies said the company is unaware of any wrongdoing on their part and put the onus on the attorneys themselves. In an email, the spokesperson, so the attorneys are going to record their conversation and then give it to the other side. In an email, the spokesperson said the call platform allows correctional agencies to classify attorney phone calls as private, which means those calls would not be recorded. Calls to numbers not designated as private, including a notification that the conversation will be recorded. So think about what that just said. If you enter into a conversation with an inmate, at the beginning of the call, it will say, "This call is recorded." But if it's with an attorney, it won't say that. So what they're saying is that the calls that were recorded left out that kind of introduction that says that the call is going to be recorded. If an attorney fails to provide their phone number to a facility and ignores that notification, the calls will be recorded as designated and required by contract, the spokesperson said. Yeah, but you're going to hear it at the beginning of the call. This call is going to be recorded. And they're saying, from, I guess, the way I'm reading it, is that because no attorney would continue talking to their client after they hear the statement, this call is being recorded. So the only way that these calls are getting recorded is if that notification is not being said at the beginning of the call. I mean, this sounds pretty suspect to me. The company has been working with the Maine Commission on Indigenous Legal Services since earlier this year to create a comprehensive list of attorney numbers and make sure calls to those numbers are not recorded, the spokesperson said. We are troubled by any allegation of misuse of our technology, even if unintentional, which is why we are making substantial investment in the improvements to our call system that will provide incarcerated individuals and their attorneys even more clarity regarding the status of private or non-private calls, the spokesperson said. We will also provide additional material and avenues for educating the defense bar about the registration process. Allegations of illegally recorded calls in Maine jails were first reported last month by the Maine Monitor, formerly Pine Tree Watch. The Securus Technologies website says it provides services for 14 of the 15 county jails in Maine. Most inmate calls are recorded and can be used as evidence in their cases, but Maine law prohibits investigators from interfering with attorney-client privilege. The complaint says the company failed to screen out the phone calls that inmates made to their attorneys. Since July 2019, the company has recorded. First of all, before I get to this, like I said, the the district attorneys and the attorney general, assistant attorney generals, who's ever prosecuting the case, the second that they see that a call is between an attorney and a client, they should not listen to that. They should just shut it off, return it, delete it, whatever they have to do. They have an obligation to follow the law. So what this is saying, if you read between the lines, is that the Attorney General's office and the district attorney's offices around Maine are blatantly breaking the law, willingly, but breaking the law. Are they going to be punished? Are they going to be punished in any way criminally? I mean, I know this suit is suing the company that is distributing the calls to them, but are the attorney generals going to be punished? Are the district attorneys going to be punished? Since July 2019, the company has recorded over 800 calls between attorneys and people incarcerated in Androscoggin, Aroostook, Franklin, and Somerset County jails, according to the complaint. The plaintiffs said those calls included more than 150 inmates and 30 law firms or attorneys. The complaint describes several cases in which the attorneys learned their calls had been recorded. It does not include the names of any people who are incarcerated in county jails. In one instance, Pratt represented a client who's incarcerated in the Somerset County Jail. In April, a prosecutor from the Maine Attorney General's office contacted Pratt because he recognized the defense attorney's voice on a recorded phone call from the jail. Pratt received a copy of that recording, the complaint says, but he does not know if the other phone call with his client was also, if other calls were also recorded with different clients and that client. In another case, Tibbetts and Ruffner represented a client who's incarcerated in the Aroostook County Jail. In May, the Maine Attorney General's office contacted Ruffner to tell him that the Securitas gave them hundreds of recorded calls between the inmates and his attorneys. The Attorney General's office realized that mistake was when a detective listened to the recordings and recognized Tibbetts' voice. So, I mean, that's good that the Attorney General's office didn't return them, but as you can see, he already listened to them. And he recognized the voice. I mean, don't you realize there's something wrong about that? I mean, when you're listening to a conversation between an attorney and a client, it's distinctly different than a conversation that they might have between them and their friends, or them and their wife, or them and their girlfriend. You should be able to know without even having to recognize the voice. You should know immediately. This is a conversation between an attorney and a client. The representative from the AG's office could not confirm how many of the calls were privileged, the complaint says. Instead, they provided plaintiffs Ruffner and Tibbetts with a copy of the recorded calls and asked them to screen out the privileged calls. The company said Tibbetts and his staff have confirmed several calls including privileged information. A spreadsheet attached to the lawsuit shows that dozens of calls had listened to, or downloaded. It is not clear from the lawsuit whether the recordings have impacted individual cases so far, or whether these allegations could taint any prosecution. Obviously, they're going to taint prosecution. The prosecutors now know everything that the other side is saying. The attorneys are asking the court to order Securus Technologies to stop recording inmate calls unless it can screen out attorney-client privilege calls. They have also asked that Securus produce copies of the recorded calls and destroy those that were illegally recorded. The Constitution and its mandates aren't shut off when you enter the jail. Shut out of the jail, Cummins said. They apply within or without. Deputy Attorney General Lisa Marches said the state prosecutors are aware of the lawsuit. In short, prosecutors do not want communications between attorneys and their clients at the jails recorded, nor do we want copies of the recordings, Marches wrote in an email. In those circumstances where recordings have inappropriately been provided to the state, the recording has not been listed to the defense and the defense attorney has been immediately notified. Has not been listened to, and the defense attorney has been immediately notified. Well, if they haven't been listened to, how do you know? And earlier in the article, they confessed that they had listened to them. So this is all over the place. Marches, I'm not sure how to pronounce her name, also shared a copy of a letter the Maine Prosecutors Association sent last month to sheriffs and jail administrators outlining the process for protecting attorney-client phone calls from recording. The letter says it is imperative for the jails to obtain all phone numbers and email addresses for defense attorneys whose clients are incarcerated. We would ask that you keep track of all attorney contact information so we can reduce the number of attorney-client calls that are recorded and improperly provided to law enforcement and the state. District Attorney Andrew Robinson, the association's president, wrote in a letter. In turn, we have made the defense bar aware of the importance of keeping the jail up to date on contact information. Penobscot County Sheriff Troy Morton, who is president of the Maine Sheriff's Association, did not return a voicemail left at his office Tuesday afternoon. So, I mean, this story is explosive. Number one, I do not believe for 1 second that the Attorney General's office in Maine and the District Attorney's office in Maine did not listen to those calls and are not using the information they gathered in those calls to prosecute the people that are in the jail that are awaiting prosecution. Because you have to keep in mind, when they say jail, they're talking about pre-conviction detentions, and then once you're convicted, you go to prison. So these are pre-conviction detentions. They're being prosecuted, and I do not believe for 1 second that these calls are not being listened to. Detailed notes being taken, and even though they can't directly use the phone calls against them, they are indirectly using these phone calls against them. Maybe they say something like, "Oh, my sister actually did this, but I'm taking the blame for her because she could never go to prison." And then they use that to go after the sister or something, when that's privileged communication between the suspect and his attorney. There's all sorts of scenarios that could play out. I mean, including things that could help the police, like, this is where I buried the body. It's, so many feet from this tree that's located in this place. Sure, that could help the police recover the body, but if they then use that information against the person, that would be a violation of the attorney-client confidentiality. So it could be used both ways. But with what I know about Maine and how they just are blatantly corrupt, I know there's good people in Maine. I just know there are. I'm very, I guess, sour because I've been dealing with corrupt people. But I know there are good people in Maine. It sounds like this assistant attorney general seems like she's. Well, I can't believe it's so late. It's like 3:07 a.m. in the morning. Holy crap. Can't believe I'm up this late. But I did see this comment right here. Lady Justice. In the case of Christopher Watts, the private conversation between him and his family were sold to a YouTuber, according to the YouTuber who played the private conversation on his videos. I would be very interested in learning more information about that. If you don't mind sending it to me, to my email, that would be really helpful. I would like to look into that a little bit more. I have no clue why I'm still up. I just couldn't sleep. A lot going on earlier today. I just completed a really big case that gave me a bunch of, I was jazzed up after that. It's probably not wise to be doing YouTube at 3 o'clock in the morning. But I did see over here, I did see something on Millie Weaver's Facebook page. This is her Facebook page. Let's see if I can get her Facebook page to. Yeah, this is kind of weird. Oh, come on. Trying to get her face. Yeah, there we go. Trying to get us both in the screen here. Sorry, the live YouTube thing. So this weird thing I noticed. This is something breaking. Millie Weaver tweeted, "This psycho, POS, obviously a bad word, is making despicable accusations against my family, including child abuse. This is beyond dirty. These attacks are IIA assets being deployed to character assassinate me so the deep state can take me out. Look at this email sent to me." All right, it says, "Do not reply at domainbyproxy.com." So that's a email service that's untraceable. Interesting. Anyway, ha ha ha, Millie Weaver filed child porn through your name and signature. Ha ha ha. We will plant child porn photos inside of your home. We will plant child porn photos in places that you won't be able to find it, but we'll call the FBI and have them, a SWAT team, come to your home, and we'll leak where the child porn uh, photographs are and get you all implicated. Shut up, bad word, and let us take you and your family down. Ha 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 ha. Wow. Wow. What else? So she sent it to Millie Wentz at, okay, that's her email address. Oh my. Well, she's putting it on her Twitter account, so I'm not the one releasing that. I received this, Kathy Gray, supervisor. Oh wow, my last name's Gray. So she's sending it to the Portage County Sheriff's Office. Kathy Gray must be the clerk there. And then she says, "Dear Clerk of Court of Common Pleas, I am Millie Weaver. I am filing this affidavit electronically through email. I hope it will be put to good use in the case. Thank you for time and attention to file the document in this case." Very, very interesting. And then she writes, "My lawyer just told me that the prosecutor confirmed someone actually did send child porn in that email. The FBI is now involved. They know the situation and will find this sicko. Over the target, staying strong and fighting back." And then she writes in another tweet here, "I'm being attacked so hard right now, guys. The deep state must be scared." And then that's she has this pinned tweet at the top where about politics. Yeah, so that's sort of the latest update in real time at 3:12 in the morning. Let's see what the comments have to say here. Let's see if I can go to black. Comments. "Oh my goodness, this is very serious. I'm blown away with all this stuff I see going on here at YouTube. Be safe." Yeah, I agree. I mean, I was shocked when they somehow, the audio on a brief section of one of my videos, the audio was just wiped off it. That was shocking. And then I actually had a video that was completely deleted off YouTube. I couldn't even find it after I uploaded it. That was shocking. I do delete some of my live streams after I get done with my live streams, just because I feel like I can break them up into smaller videos that would be more interesting and get more views and clicks later on. So I do take down some of my live streams, but but YouTube taking them down that's pretty serious. But yeah, this story here with Millie Weaver, people trying to set her up with child porn, that's crazy. Yeah, no, I'm not letting it consume me. Try to get some rest, young man. Don't let it consume. I'm not letting it consume me. I just can't sleep tonight. I cracked a big case earlier today for my job down on the Cape. A fraud case, and so I was wired because of that. And then I drank a little caffeine a little bit too late, so I'm just wired and awake. Anyway, but I'm going to do a little bit more research on this. It is interesting that Millie Weaver posted that on Facebook, on her Twitter. All right, I'm starting to die. You're right. I'm going to have to cut this live stream short, but thanks for watching tonight. I'd like to give a shout out to the Maine Fusion Center, a secret Maine State Police Department set up in the wake of 9/11 to spy on terrorists, but now spy on anybody who's a little critical of the state of Maine. They have spied on me. They've spied on peaceful protesters. They've spied on people that were against a power line going through Maine. They've spied on Black Lives Matter protesters. And they are my most loyal fan. They've watched all my videos, read all my posts. So a big shout out to the Maine State Police Fusion Center. These videos do take a lot of time. I don't make money on them, so if you would not mind, go check out my website, nationalsi.com. And if you know anybody who does insurance fraud assignments, insurance adjusters, lawyers, please email me their contact information so that I can reach out to them. I'm in the New England area. I'm licensed in Massachusetts, New Hampshire, Vermont. I work in Rhode Island, and also I'm down in the South too, in Tennessee. So any of those areas are great. If you know people that are in the industry, please forward their information. It would be very, very helpful. Also, check out my store. You can buy cool t-shirts and mugs and different things that help support my work. I just want to get to the truth. That's my goal with every case, with every story that I do. And the truth and uncovering the truth is very important, no matter where it leads.
Let not your heart be troubled. Ye believe in God, believe also in me. In my Father's house are many mansions. If it were not so, I would have told you. I go to prepare place for you. And if I go and prepare place for you, I will come again, and receive you unto myself, that where I am, there ye may be also.